Me in studio is Ajay Pandey, the CEO of Neotel. Ajay, thank you very much for your time. You've published a book, Are You Fishing in the Right Ocean? And it's a self-help book for professionals. Can you give me a high-level overview of the publication?
The book is about the fact that if people begin to treat themselves as a corporation, then you would also begin to have your own vision, your own mission, your own set of action plans, and how you should diversify, if at all, and what are the pluses and minuses you should look for. And it's essentially about the fact that we are great people when it comes to corporate lives and defining lives for others, but very seldom we look at ourselves. So that's the theme of the book, essentially.
You've started 4 businesses from scratch, and you must have learned a number of lessons along the way. Can you share them with us?
I think it's yes, there are some lessons to be learned. I think the first one which comes to my mind is one should never estimate the power of a team or people, because particularly if you come from the startup sort of a situation, you can show them the way, you can give them the vision, but it's finally the team which turns out and executes it. The other lesson which I have learned very clearly is one should never underestimate the potential of people. So one is the team, second is the potential, and don't ever underestimate. I think the more you empower people, the more the brilliance comes out, and goes back to one of the definitions which I talk very often of is empowerment to me is permission to fail. And if somebody is empowered and if you say you have to do it, there are very few people in this world who want to fail consciously. And I think that's where you begin to see the power of individual, power of teams, coming together. So these are like, few of the specific ones which come to my mind straight away.
How do you deal with failure personally?
You have to learn something, and you can always say that I failed, or what went well, what did not go well. I think in sort of hindsight, everyone becomes wiser, so to speak. But you got to pick up in any and every failure of life, there are definitely 1 or 2 key points which you need to carry with you so that it never stares at you in future. So every failure or every such incident or event ends up teaching you a lot, and I think that's what you should focus upon, and that's been my approach, and that's why probably I've survived so far.
Ajay, you speak extensively about teams and surrounding yourself with the right people. Also, the potential not to underestimate the individual potential. What do you look for when you create your teams around you?
I think more than anything else, I look for the right attitude, essentially. And if someone has the right attitude, you can train the person, you can impart any kind of knowledge. But if the right attitude is there, I think you can achieve much more than the basic degree of an individual or basic qualifications of a person. I always say that knowledge is good, but I think the way you apply that knowledge, I think that brings out much more than that. So I think my biggest criteria would be to look for the positive attitude.
The South African business environment versus the Indian business environment, is it incredibly different?
It is different. I think I'll be fooling myself if I say there's no difference. I think one of the key things that is followed in India, and I have seen that there is an element of fight for survival. Only the brightest and fittest actually make the grade because of so many people being there. And they have learned to live with what is called scarcity, so to speak. And I think that brings about a different kind of fire in specific senses.
A culture of excellence, would you say?
A culture of excellence, culture of, for right from when you're a child, you've got to work hard to get into good schools. If you've made it to some of the well-known institutes, you have made it, kind of a thing. It's not an easy go situation. So you have to work for survival, and I think that somehow begins to come through in some of the people, at least I have interacted with or I have seen it. So from that sense, I think there is a bit of a difference in terms of approach.
Are South Africans lazy, in other words?
I never said that they are lazy, but I think I personally feel South Africa is a very blessed place. Where where would you find such great weather? Where would you find such great, if I may use the word, beaches and mountains and wines and minerals and everything? It's a blessed country, if you ask me. But I think the world is changing. The times are changing, and people need to accept the fact that it is changing, and you got to adapt to yourself. So I'm not saying it's an issue about scarcity of plenty. I think it's about just changing the orientation a little bit to pick up that thought. By no means I'm saying that people here don't excel. I mean, we have some wonderful examples of excellence of what people did pre-democracy and post-democracy, if you were to put it in that sense. I think there are multiple examples from which we can learn. But since you asked me a difference, I'm giving you what the first impressions are.